Detroit. I'm gonna do something purely out of vanity. My glasses look like I have because of the light on my camera, it's like bright green, and I just don't want to look like a robot the whole time. So I'm gonna try my other pair of glasses and see if nope, it's still
No, same thing. It's
it is.
Parker. So let me tell you how reflection works.
We were pretty rough on baseball last week, being in the situation that they were in. Uh, do you think baseball's coming back, or do you still think that it's toast?
I think it's toast. I don't think we see it this year, no matter what. The owners are at a point where they would rather not play than play 50 or even 80 games and make little to no money. They even after 4 years of record profits, they just don't care about this year because they're not going to make a ton of money and they might actually lose money. But in the long run, it's going to turn into something where they lose even more money because if you pay attention social media right now, and I know everybody talks a big game and everybody's going to go back, but fans are not happy with the owners, with the proposal they've put through. I mean, we talked about it last week. You can't ask somebody who's making $35 million to go play for 7.5 while they're putting their health on the line and the whole deal. It's not possible. They won't accept. They shouldn't accept. The players shouldn't accept. It should be as simple as we're going to play 81 games. You're going to pay us for 81 games. That's how it's going to go. They make, I don't know, 5% of their revenue off people in the stadium. All the money in sports is from the TV deals now. So the owner's trying to play this game of we don't have any money. Oh, shocker. The Oakland Athletics owner just announced he is going to pay their minor leaguers after a week of getting just destroyed all over the world for being a greedy bastard.
I feel like if there's one real life thing that we've learned over the last 2 weeks, it's that the only thing that works is direct action.
Yeah.
Direct action and getting it involved the institutional level. That's it. Those are the only things that work. And I mean,
you got to start at the top and then work your way down. And if it doesn't go that way, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to happen. And I just don't think the MLBPA has really any power right now because the owners are so okay with not playing this season. I know they don't. If there was a 50-game season, owners, they're going to use a full year of service time on their young players with that. So let's say there's a 50-game season and the Tigers are we're going all in. We're calling up Mize, Manning, Scooble. They're all coming. Yeah. Well, that's a full year of service time on each one of those guys. So now you're only 5 years away from paying them $100 million contract instead of 6 years away. So the owners are just watching out for their own pocket, and we're just not going to get around that. It's billionaire owners. We're not going to get around it. Did you see the official NBA proposal? What's going down? Exactly how it's going to work? Do you want to explain it to everybody, kind of the outline of it?
Well, let me make sure that I have a good beat on what this is. So I'll start, and then if I'm wrong, just jump in on me here. It's going to be 22 teams. And then I'm going to real quick right here, we'll see all of the team logos, all 22 teams that are going to be involved in this. And there's going to be 8 games of regular season play amongst those 22 teams. And then they're basically going to do a 1 through 16 reseed of those teams at the end of those 8 games based on win percentage, which is important.
Right.
Not wins or losses, because there's some game number discrepancies involved that are going to potentially affect things in a big way. Once we're there, it'll be a big A1 top of the fold story that Portland gets in despite having the same number of wins because of their win percentage involved in the regular season.
Right. And the only other thing is, so they are doing the normal 1 through 8 seeding, but if a 9 seed is within 4 games, then that triggers a play-in series. So the 9 seed would then play the 8 seed, and the 9 seed would need to win 2 games to advance. The 8 seed would only need to win 1 game to advance.
Cool.
So if you look at it right now, though, Washington's 4.5 games back in the East. So if they can get a half game up, boom, they get that play-in series. Portland, New Orleans, and Sacramento are only 3.5 games back in the West, and the Spurs are only 4 games back. So I don't know how it would work if all 4 of those teams were less than 4 games back. I think it's like what you said, the highest winning percentage would just get the 9 seed, and the other teams would be forgotten about.
Yep.
But I love it. I think they got it perfect.
Oh, I'm surprised to hear you say that. I think that it's pretty close to perfect. It's a little convoluted in the nitty gritty, but you kind of have to be. I feel like, right, to make this feel real, you got to really make sure that you've given everybody the best chance possible to show how good they are.
Right, exactly. And it's just not worth it from one, the health risk, and two, from getting everybody ready to play, to have those other 8 teams come play. I mean, they're sneaking the Phoenix Suns in here as well. I think they're like 6.5 games back.
Yeah.
But it's just, for those other teams, it's just not worth it. It's kind of like when Damian Lillard earlier, like a month ago, said, if we're going back to play, but we don't have a chance to make the playoffs, I'm not playing. Yeah. And that just makes sense. Like, why waste everybody's time, risk of injury? You're risking the next X amount of years of a contract, or if it's somebody on a contract year, you're risking this offseason for 5 games to 8, and now 8 games. But it's gonna play out like the normal playoffs. They aren't rushing it. It's gonna go all the way. If there's a game 7 of the NBA Finals, it's gonna go all the way to October 12th, which is like less than a week before the season would have started if everything went normal. We're still not sure when next season would start. I don't know if it'll be Christmas right away. I still think they'll have to push that back a little bit, because 2 months seems a little short for an NBA offseason.
Well, I would like to see them try to do that. They've had, a pretty good break in the middle, and then they're going to get a 2 months is a decent break. I know it's not the whole NBA offseason, but I'd imagine the players are kind of all looking to get back to like a restart on the season too. No matter what happens, I just feel like a lot of players are going to have regrets about how things went.
As the world's biggest LeBron stan, that the part about starting back on Christmas Day worries me for that reason of like, how are the 30-plus-year-old guys going to go from like, here's 2.5 months of as hard as you can play the playoffs. Now you only get 2 months off, and now you're right back. I think if they did start on Christmas, you'd see a record amount of load management, because even though they've had this break, I think the break matters because the intensity turns up so much in the playoffs. I think the only thing that really matters is the break you get after the playoffs. But then again, that's going to affect so few teams. And something I just thought about was the start of next season. These higher seeded teams that are going to go to a conference finals might really be at a disadvantage. These other teams are going to have 7 months off, 8 months off, and then go into this next season against guys who are, 2 months removed from a finals run or a conference finals run. I think that'll be a really interesting sub-story for the start of next season.
I think that the litmus test for that will be LeBron. It will be what LeBron looks like next year. He'll be the guy, because he'll be 35, right, next year?
36.
36?
Yeah, because his birthday is December 31st. I think he'll turn 36 on December 31st.
I'm glad that you know that. But.
Well, of course, I have to. It just, it fits the mold.
Do you send on a birthday tweet every year?
Of course. Of course I do. Are you kidding me? That's my guy. He knows me too. He sees those birthday tweets. Don't doubt it. Who's winning the title?
The Lakers.
Who are they playing in the finals?
They're playing. I think it's going to be pretty chalk. I'm taking the Bucks.
All right, I got a hot take for the East.
I don't believe in any of those East teams. Do you? I don't feel good about anybody in the East for like a championship.
They're the only team I can see beating the Bucks is the Toronto Raptors.
Nice.
I really think if you have Pascal and Giannis for a full 7-game series, that of course he's not going to lock him down. He's not going to stop him. Giannis is going to put up 25 to 30 points a game in that series. It doesn't matter. But they've shown they can do it before. Even with, I know they had Kawhi Leonard last year, but the rest of that team is the same guys, but most of them are better. And if they're not better, they're about the same. I just saw a picture of Marc Gasol, and he looked like he dropped 30 pounds, dude.
Not bad, though. Don't you not want that guy to drop 30 pounds?
In the older stages of his career, I want to see him drop 30 pounds before a playoff run. I love seeing that, because the constant thing we're stuck on with centers is post play, and you're not winning playoff games with post play. So I'm more worried about rebounding, being able to play 35, 36 minutes a game, being able to get up and down the floor. just be able to stay out there. And we saw he could do it last year, but if he could do it even better and be more effective later in the game this year, and then Giannis all of a sudden has Pascal on him on the perimeter, and then when he drives the lane, he's getting hit by like 28-year-old looking Marc Gasol. He's, it's going to be trouble. So I'm going to say Lakers over the Raptors in the finals, and the Lakers will beat them in 5. But Lakers, it'll be. They will have reached their ceiling when they find a way to knock the Bucks out. But Lakers over Raptors in 5 in the finals.
What's the team in the Western Conference outside of really the Lakers and the Clippers who you really like to make some noise?
The Rockets.
The Rockets? I like the Rockets.
Rockets all day, every day.
Yeah.
I just believe there's 2 things I believe in. One, James Harden has been on a hiking mission. I've seen multiple pictures of him hiking, and he looks like a wise sage. Like he's got a little bit of gray in his beard from what I saw. He's lost, I don't know, for James Harden, 100 pounds. Like his gut is gone. It's completely gone. And then just the him and Russell Westbrook revenge tour of neither of us want to go down as the Charles Barkley of this generation. They both want it to be Chris Paul because that's what it is. It is a 3-man race between Harden, Westbrook, and Paul for the Charles Barkley of this generation. And that's not, the worst legacy to ever have, but you're always going to be the guy where as soon as you start trash talking or say anything, people are like, yeah, but do you have a ring? And end of conversation. That is the end of the conversation. You lose that argument every time.
Barkley is the worst at that. Barkley talks so much shit and about players too, which I really don't like. He wasn't a saint of a player.
Former NBA star and current TV analyst Charles Barkley says he'll pay $400,000 in past gambling debts to avoid potential criminal charges. The Wynn Las Vegas casino filed a civil complaint against him Wednesday. It says the casino gave him 4 $100,000 markers or loans last October, and that he has since refused to repay the casino despite repeated demands. However, Barkley says he simply made a mistake in not settling his debts and adds he has the money to do so. He says the debts stem from bets he made on this year's Super Bowl, and also says the hotel never called him to collect. Barkley has long acknowledged that he has a gambling problem and once stated that he has probably gambled away about $10 million over the years. However, the 1993 MVP and 11-time All-Star says he never bet on basketball and only deals in casinos. John Kluber,
for sure.
Yeah.
Not by any stretch of anybody's imagination was Barkley what we would consider to be a good guy.
No, he is not a role model.
Yeah.
As he will tell you himself.
So I like the Rockets a lot. I just like the way they play for what's going to happen. A team that I like to make some noise a little under the radar is the Portland Trailblazers. And they get Nurkic back, which I think is going to be big for them. I think Nurkic is back, fully rested Carmelo. We'll see if he's been in the gym. Dame and CJ at full 100% speed. I think from a talent perspective, they can match up with pretty much anybody who isn't the Lakers and the Clippers. But
so I think their hope right now, because like I said earlier, them, New Orleans, and Sacramento are all 3.5 games back, and the Spurs are 4 games back. So I think what the NBA is probably planning on doing, and what I hope they're planning on doing, is having all of those teams play each other at least once during this. And then kind of let the playoff teams just use it as a preseason to get ready for the season. But if they play New Orleans, Sacramento, and the Spurs and the Suns all once, I'm 80% certain they'll be the team coming out and making it to the postseason.
I think the Lakers could win a round in the playoffs too. That's why
I do too. I mean, that's the Western Conference Finals team from last year,
sure.
And they only had it really figured out for a little bit this year. It's when Dame had that crazy stretch where he was averaging 40+ points for a couple weeks. But that team always, typically, it's in the beginning of the season they underachieve and then they find their way back to the playoffs by the time they need to. And that team could definitely win a playoff series. I mean, if you threw them against the Thunder, that's going to be a 6-7 game series. If you throw them against the Jazz, that could go 6-7 games. The Nuggets could go 6-7 games. So they definitely have a chance to win a series here. And I mean, 2 would be very unlikely because they'd have to beat either the Clippers or the Lakers. But an injury or something a little bit weird happens, and it's not completely unheard of. I mean,
the Clippers and the Lakers are one injury away from not being, it's
not being a title contender. If the Clippers lose Kawhi or Paul George, or the Lakers lose LeBron or Anthony Davis, they are a worse team than the Blazers in both cases, probably.
I think that there are even guys on those teams that you could lose that aren't their leaders that would still significantly hurt those teams, like the Clippers especially. I just think that they're thin. They're like 8 guys deep, and if any of those 8 guys go down, it's gonna be bad. It's like if it's like Montrezl Harrell or somebody who plays a larger, like literally a big role for them, I think that's gonna be a real problem for them to come.
Yeah, I mean they around the rim right now, they are, like you said, one guy away from being just who do we put there? I mean, who if Montrez was to go down, the Clippers would be Swiss cheese at the rim.
What do you think the Rockets' odds are to win the title this year?
Like the Vegas odds?
Yeah, what do you think they are?
9-1?
No, they are plus 1,500.
Okay, 15-1.
That's
not like horrible. I'd probably take that. I'd throw $40 on
there's
that.
No numbers out yet because there's no schedule yet. But whatever the odds are for Portland getting in the playoffs, I'm taking them. That's if you're doing a parlay, that's a guarantee. I think that's a guarantee.
I don't care if it's minus like 130. I'm taking it.
No, just add it to whatever if you're a gambling person. Just
do you have all the odds in front of you?
No, but I can put right here.
Yeah, I just want to see if there's any other interesting bets.
When I went looking, you can go to mybookie.ag, which is it's the only place that I saw that has really odds of any kind, and they're still kind of forming them. I don't think that we'll have anything until the schedule is out.
Yeah, I'm here with it.
There's a low with somebody from one of the NBA guys where they talk about what that schedule is going to look like, which is interesting. It's pretty complex.
I know this is going to sound crazy too, but I don't hate the Mavericks at plus 4,000.
That's 40-1. Why not?
I mean, yeah, you can't lose with a bet like that. The only ones I really don't like are Bucks at plus 275, even though I think they're either the second or third most likely team to win. I just think plus 275 still a little low. And then Celtics at plus 1,200 seems generous as hell.
Yeah. I think they're trying to get a little action on that. I don't believe in the Celtics. I honestly, this might look really stupid in a month, but I can see this being good for the 76ers.
Yeah, why not?
Reboot a little bit, and they get a few months away from each other. They're going to come in fresh. Everybody's going to be healthy. Joel Embiid is as healthy as he could possibly be. We'll see what he looks like when he wanders into camp, but that could be good for them too. They could come from somewhere and do something, or they could lose to whoever the 6th seed in the East is going to be.
Yeah, which is just as likely. What if quarantine has been magic for Ben Simmons? He comes back and starts shooting 3.5 3 attempts a game.
I think that if he was going to do that, he would have done it already.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he'll eventually get there. I just think it'll be a slow process. I don't think it'll be like an off season and he's there. He'll go to 1 attempt, then he'll go to 2, then he'll go to 3, something along those lines.
The only thing that he could do that would be like that would be, you know how like Tracy McGrady had like a point like right along the 3 line, like right in between. I guess it'd be like on the elbow of the 3 where he just was fucking money. I could see like Ben Simmons is like, I'm going to pick one spot on the floor and I'm going to put up so many shots that like the muscle memory is just there. And this is the one shot that I can shoot 3 from, and I'll shoot like 1 a game from there.
Yeah. I mean, LeBron has always been a little bit further along in his 3-point shooting than Ben Simmons, but he kind of even has a little bit of that left wing, that little fake garbage step back that seems to get everybody in the league somehow, even though I'm watching TV. I can pick that out when I watch TV. If I was guarding LeBron James, I would know when he's going to do it every single time. It's crazy that it works so much. But
I bet he's like a good poker player. He seems like he has like that ability to like really
he gets in your head before he gets in his own. It's the flip from young LeBron. Young LeBron got in his own head first. Now he gets in your head first. Kevin Durant.
Oh yeah.
Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and John Wall will not return for any of this. Even though John Wall has said he's 110% healthy, I believe KD said he's healthy, and Kyrie's healthy. I mean, it wasn't a 6-month injury. Are you disappointed?
What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose with John Wall playing? Seriously, I'm really asking. What's the downside?
Yeah, and what do you have to lose if you're John Wall? Also, like John Wall he's on one of the biggest contracts in basketball. It's one of the worst contracts in basketball. He's never going to make more money than that contract. He's probably never going to make $25 million again after this contract. Like, this would be his perfect way to come back, put his stamp down, get this Wizards team in, win the 2 games in the play-in series, and say, yeah, I'm the best point guard in the East still, which I don't think is the case. But if I'm John Wall, that's how I'm approaching this. And I know it's easier sitting in my living room, not risking millions and millions and millions of dollars to say that. But it just seems like the perfect opportunity for John Wall to be like, yeah, you guys fucking forgot about me.
I think that he has everything to gain and nothing to lose. I guess his health. But I think that
if he's 110% healthy, then he's not going to be any healthier come December, you know?
Yeah. I think that if I'm John Wall, I mean, I guess I don't know what it is that John Wall wants, what is his overarching desire at this time. But I think that there's a chance John Wall will never be worth the contract he signed. But he could be worth 85% of it if he came back, or 90% of it. And if I was John Wall, I mean, you could be playing for a trade. You know, you could be playing to add that third piece. You could be playing to add that third piece. Bradley Beal plus 85% of John Wall plus like some sort of like good 4 is a pretty good team in the East, right?
Yeah.
I think that John Wall and Blake Griffin riding out the last 2 years into the sunset while the Pistons at the same time develop young players who are multiple years away is an interesting idea that I would like to see executed in some trades, like maybe some fake trades.
I'll tell you what, anybody listening, go trade machine that. Send it to me at Fan2Fan Detroit on Twitter. That's the number 2, Fan2Fan Detroit, and we will make sure to retweet that because I'd be very interested to see some potential trades. However, if the Wizards even considered trading for Blake Griffin, they should tear the whole franchise down.
No, I'm thinking about the Pistons trading for John Wall.
Oh, then let me take what I just said, replace the word Wizards with Pistons, and say the same sentence. If the Pistons ever considered trading for John Wall, they should tear the entire franchise down. I mean, I love the idea in 2013. I love it. It's great. You might be looking at a title in the future in 2013. But if prime Blake Griffin with prime Chris Paul can't do anything, I'm really not confident in washed up Blake Griffin with even more washed up John Wall.
Okay, here's the argument. Ready? Well, first of all, Chris Paul and Blake Griffin didn't like each other. None of those guys did. So that was an absent of talent thing. That was a chemistry health thing. The reason why you trade for John Wall is because if the deal would be, if you're going to take that contract, if you want that shitty, terrible John Wall contract and you want everybody on NBA Twitter to make fun of you, then you're getting a first-round pick out of it, right? That's the deal. So you trade your Tony Snell contract, you trade your whatever makes the contracts work, right? The poo-poo platter, the three dimes and 2 quarters for John Wall. And you draft, this is, I think, also contingent on drafting Killian Hayes or LaMelo Ball or some sort of point guard who's going to take a few years to develop, the way that Sekou is probably, I think you'd agree, at least a year away from being like what Sekou's going to be when he's 26, 27. He's still really raw, developing, really talented. So is Killian Hayes, but they're a few years away. You're just accumulating assets, and all the money comes off the board at the same time, and you get to really do the thing that you've been trying to do. And also, like John Wall, Blake Griffin, maybe you try to add try to get Rui Hachimura or something. I don't know, whatever Bertans. That team can, be interesting while developed. It's that Toronto Raptors rebuild on the fly thing that I think is a tough needle to thread, but that I kind of believe in.
You would be paying John Wall $50 million when he's 32.
Shit. The team's not going to be any better or worse with or without John Wall.
Yeah, but what you do is you take away any ability to – it's what we've talked about kind of this entire last few months whenever we talk Pistons is you take away any ability to take a bad expiring contract and get a first-round pick. Let's say they added a first-round pick with John Wall. It would be this year. and it would be the 16th pick. Even if you add Rui Hachimura, John Wall, a 16th pick, and Rui Hachimura for whatever you have to give up, 0 actual assets, still probably isn't worth it to me. I still would think I'd rather just have the flexibility throughout the rebuild than be put, because you're locked into a corner with your roster. The only way you can improve your team is through the draft, which is going to be the majority of what you do. But boy, you're at least setting yourself back an extra year.
So John Wall has 2 years left after this year on his contract, right? Blake Griffin,
and then a player option for the 3rd year.
And Blake Griffin is the same, right? 2 + 1.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're in the ocean without an oar, man. We're just swimming around. We might as well take some dumb chances to accumulate some young players. And the worst case scenario is like Blake Griffin and John Wall both get injured, and then it's like, we're still in the same place anyway.
But I don't think that's the worst case scenario. I think the worst case scenario is Blake Griffin and John Wall both don't get injured, and then you're the 6th seed and you get the 18th pick for the next 3 years.
I'd take the 6th seed and the 18th pick because you could genuinely.
We finally picked a direction. We finally did it. We can't like instantly be like, never mind. That sounds like it's gonna suck, because it is gonna suck. The next couple of years of Pistons basketball are going to be brutal. Yeah. You're gonna hate watching a lot of the games. You're gonna be watching them for the sole purpose of watching Killian Hayes or LaMelo Ball, Sekou Doumbouya or Luke Kennard, but there will be nothing else that keeps you interested in those games. They're gonna have like an average margin of loss by like 9+ points. It's going to be bad for at least 2 years, even if Blake Griffin comes back and is last year's Blake Griffin and can put up 25, 7, and 5 or something along those lines. It's still going to be rough. There is so little talent on this roster.
And I think that adding John Wall just makes it a little less rough for basically the same result. It's a more interesting sadness, which is really all that I'm going for at this point. How do I add salt and pepper to the sadness that I'm about to experience, basically? We all got to eat gruel for 2 years, man. I just want to add some cayenne pepper to it. That's all.
I just think it would be the difference between, like, let's say there's 3 years picking 5, 4, and 7, and picking 9, 11, and 16, which in an NBA draft is the difference between probably 2 All-Stars or 0 All-Stars, or at least a real chance at 2 All-Stars and then a chance for no All-Stars. But I'm not –
ceiling is an All-Star?
Whose ceiling?
Do you think Sekou's ceiling is an All-Star? An All-Star?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I just think when you're that young and you can do that many different things on the basketball court, I mean, prime Sekou's going to be 35 to 40% from 3. He's going to be really good around the rim. The biggest thing I think that's actually holding him back right now, I don't think it's anything with shooting or finishing or defense. I think it's his ball handling. He is hopefully spending this entire offseason just handling the ball, doing different drills. Because if you can get a guy like that to be able to handle the ball, 25% of the times up the floor, all of a sudden it's a guy who has the ceiling to be 13, 5, and 3 guy to a guy who has the chance to be a 27 and 5 guy. It is the difference in becoming a player that's worth or that will lead a team to a conference finals or a finals. And I don't necessarily think that that's the expectation with Sekou, is that he's going to be compete for MVPs and leading you to a conference finals. But the expectation is if we get good enough to do that in the next 5-6 years, he's going to be at least good enough to be the 3rd best player on that team. And that guy's got to be at least near all-star level player at minimum. And that's if we get lucky with one of these draft picks over the next few years.
Does prime Sekou kind of look like what Blake Griffin looks like right now? No, different style player.
He looks like Paul George. He's going to be perimeter centric, I would think. But if he's coming towards you, if he's barreling to the rim, you don't want to be in that guy's way. And then you mix in with that the possible all-NBA level defense that he does. That's where he's got the highest ceiling, right? He's got the ceiling of a guy who can be locking down 1 through 4 easy. No problem. Just one of the best defenders, if not the best defender on the court every night. Mixed with the jump shot, especially from the wings. He's great at shooting it from the wings. He's pretty good from the corners right now, not as good from the top of the key. He just, every time I see this guy play, especially if you go look at his France days, when he was a little bit younger, but I think you get kind of a better feel for where his ceiling is because of the competition he's playing. It looks like a young Paul George. It looks like the Pacers Paul George with the chance to have a little bit better of a jump shot. So the sky is the limit for Sekou. There is no defined ceiling yet.
The NHL, we don't really talk a lot of hockey. So I have a little hockey here real quick.
Yes, please tell me what's happening with the NHL because I have no idea.
So I really like what the NHL is doing. The NHL is bringing back 24 teams. They're also seeding things based on win percentage. They're splitting it up: 12 teams in the East, 12 teams in the West. And they're one thing I thought was interesting is that they're going to do like hub cities, like 2, maybe 3 hub cities, and they've talked about actually doing it in Canada, which I think is an interesting option that exclusively the NHL is like makes sense for. You hop around between Vancouver, Edmonton, and Toronto, 3 huge hockey towns, 3 I would say probably pretty safe towns as far as disease goes, right? Canada has been in a lot safer of a place than we have been as far as that stuff goes. So it's a better move safety-wise as well as, I mean, geographically, Vancouver to Toronto is a hike, but you could probably still top 4 in the East and West. Okay, so the top 4 seeds on each conference are going to go play in their own round-robin tournament to seed themselves, and the bottom 4 teams in each conference are also going to play in their own round-robin tournament to seed themselves. And then so you'll have the bottom 16 teams are going to play a best of 5, and then that's how it'll go. So I think it's cool as hell. I think it's a really cool idea.
It's the most modern thing either the NHL or the MLB has done in my lifetime. Like, it's like they are actually looking for unique, out of the normal, non-traditional ways to do it. And that sounds like a blast to me. The NHL playoffs are already incredibly fun. Yeah. If you're like doubling the odds for these lower seed teams, we could see like a 6 versus 8 seed in the Stanley Cup. I mean, we've seen an 8 seed win this decade. That doesn't happen in basketball. I mean, 6 seeds rarely win in football, very rarely. But in hockey, it's prevalent, and with that, you're just throwing more gas onto the fire. It's just going to get crazier and crazier, and more teams are going to have a chance. I dig it, and it'll be one of the most amazing things if we see like the 22nd best team in the league go and win a Stanley Cup this year.
Hockey is like just always so high variance, man. It's worse than baseball. I mean, gambling on hockey seems like a guaranteed way to lose your money. It just
I did it one time earlier this year. I went to the Wings game. They were facing the Flames. They were underdogs by like a goal, and they lost by like 4 goals. I took them. It wasn't even close. I just think that the skill gap between the best hockey player in the world and the 200th best hockey player in the world is a lot less than the skill gap between Justin Verlander and Spencer Turnbull. Like, I just think that the gap is smaller. And I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's because you're on skates, so it takes away a little bit of the natural athleticism of it, or if it's just there's only so many things you can do. But does it seem that way to you? Like the gap is smaller?
I don't know. I have no idea. Sorry. I'm really sorry.
Well, I'm kind of grasping at straws with that theory anyways. So.
We're in Detroit, and there's so many hockey fans, and like, I love watching hockey, but I am the most casual of casuals, and hockey really seems kind of like baseball where there's a real insiderness to it, and soccer where there's a real insiderness to it, and I don't have that. I like watching hockey because it's fun and it's fast-paced and because it goes well with drinking. And everything else to me is I just don't take it that seriously. It's like the only sport that I watch purely recreationally. I just want to give hockey fans a little something because we really don't do anything for them.
Yeah, I do the same thing every year. I am like, I'm going to get into the Red Wings. I freaking am going to love hockey. And then I'll love every sport because I freaking love sports. I love them because I'm a dude. And then I'll watch the first 4 games of the season. I'll be like, no, I don't like hockey that much.
If it comes back, I think there's a good chance that I get really into baseball. I'm like, because just of how much I've been missing sports, and especially if it's like, it sounds like if they do an 82-game season or something, that it's going to be almost every day. There's going to be baseball every day to watch. So that'll be, I think that'll go well. my
Yeah,
life.
I am. I am more. I'm bought back into baseball more right now without it happening than I have been in the last 5 years. All thanks to MLB The Show 20 and my beautiful, sexy Diamond Dynasty team. I'm bought in, dude. I'm like. I am Dave Chappelle itching my neck for the MLB season to come back. You got any of that MLB season? Like, I need it. I need it.
So the MLS, it seemed like, was going to go on strike for like 24 hours, and then I guess it's not happening anymore. I mean, soccer MLS is in the baseball zone where I genuinely have no idea what's about to happen. It's the push notifications are a real emotional cyclone. I don't know what's going on with MLS. It's been tough.
Do you have like any specifics on it? Because
it's kind of like what baseball is doing, where they're trying to build a CBA on the fly. The MLS is also kind of in that situation. So it's the same thing where this is going to sound, I think, weird because all sports have this problem, but travel in the MLS is kind of a nightmare in a way that I don't think it sounds like it is for basketball and for football and for baseball. Maybe I hear a lot when foreign players come over to the MLS. It's like the one thing they say. They are always like, the travel is murder. I don't know how you guys do this. And I mean, I know it's because they come from Europe, and Spain to France is like a 2-hour plane flight. But I don't know. They complain about it a lot. I think it has to do a lot with like how many injuries there are in the MLS. So MLS is in kind of the danger zone. The I don't know what the fuck's going on zone.
Now did they start their season before all of this?
Yeah, they played 2 games.
Okay.
Give or take.
Now have you heard anything about them looking at this as an opportunity to get on the same schedule as the rest of the world?
Well, it doesn't. The reason why the MLS can't be on the same schedule as the rest of the world is because there aren't dome stadiums in Minnesota, Toronto, Vancouver, Portland, Seattle, Columbus, and Chicago, which makes it a real problem to play soccer in the months that the rest of the world is playing soccer, because it's either too hot or too cold.
Okay. I just feel like that's something that over the next decade and a half, they should pick those off one by one and be like, find a stadium with a roof. It's time to get on the same schedule. I think it would help the MLS by a ton.
Yeah, it's tough because the MLS is also expanding extremely rapidly right now. I mean, they're adding basically 2 teams a year for the last 3 years, it feels like. And it's tough, man. Like, you can't play a soccer game in Miami in the middle of June. You'll die. You know, it's really brutal. And you can't, in the same vein, play a soccer game in Toronto in November because everybody will die. It's tough. I think that there's a chance for them to kind of adjust their schedule, but the MLS is kind of, I think, locked in to where they're at. There's a lot of discussions amongst like soccer fans that MLS needs promotion relegation. And I really disagree, and I'm in the minority on that. But
really?
Yeah, it's people.
The talent level is too spread out already that you don't want to. Yeah.
Well, just in general, I don't think you can do promotion relegation in the United States. I just don't think that you'll ever be able to get owners to buy in on that. You can't make an investment on a brand new $100 million in a brand new team in Nashville, and then all of a sudden you're in the USL next year. You can't expect big business people to get involved with risk like that. It's just not the way it works. But it's better for the sport, sure, I guess. Does it allow fans of smaller teams in smaller cities to become, real? Does it create rivalries? Yeah, kind of. It just doesn't. MLS shouldn't function the same way the Premier League does because socioeconomically they're just 2 drastically different situations.
Now, why do you think the owners in Europe are so much more likely to invest and to buy into that? Is it just because they know it's the way it's always been done and that it's never going to change? Or is it that the lower leagues are making more money than, what is it, the USL here? USFL? So is it just that they're making more money in like the Championship League in England, or?
I mean, like other sports, there's TV rights money. That's a big thing. But if you're a big money owner and this is happening, the most high profile example of this most recently is RB Leipzig, which basically got bought out by Red Bull, right? Red Bull, and they own teams in a couple of different divisions, Austria as well as New York Red Bulls and the MLS. They basically, because European soccer doesn't have a salary cap in the same way that other sports do, the playing field isn't level. So you can literally buy in on soccer, and if you're willing to spend the money, have a good team in 2-3 years. You just have to be willing to spend the money to do that. And the Red Bulls are the team that's done that. They started out in the 4th division in German soccer. So imagine if like a AA team from baseball came soaring through the ranks to become the best team in baseball. That's kind of what happens. You know, in baseball,
that'd be wild.
Yeah, right? Wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
So, like with the Premier League, Newcastle, for example, just got bought by some, I believe, Saudi Arabian oil money. So we're going to see how different Newcastle is now. They've kind of been the Premier League's version of a poverty club for a long time. Not for a long time, but for a few years, they've just not spent any money at all. And they've just barely avoided relegation for 3 years in a row. So it's just different. It's just different, you know. It's the difference that there is between Europe and the United States as far as sports goes. MLS also doesn't want to compete with football. MLS would, you know, they kind of have that little part in the early summer kind of to themselves, you know.
Right. I hadn't even thought about that. That alone just kind of nixes the idea. You can't compete with football. The NBA is trying to get out of football's window. So if the NBA can't do it, then the MLS definitely can't, and especially when they're using some football stadiums. So, speaking of football, why is Cam Newton not signed to an NFL roster yet?
Well, why isn't anybody who hasn't been drafted in that first free agent rush signed to an NFL roster yet?
But like Cam Newton's a former MVP winner. I know he's not that guy anymore, but he's not, I don't know, David Blau. He's not David Blau. He can get a team, I believe at least, to compete for a playoff spot in the right situation.
What team fits him?
I mean, I guess that's probably the
high-profile backup quarterback.
I mean, if I'm Tampa, I'm not against having a high-profile backup quarterback because my quarterback's 100.
Wait a minute. No way, dude. Tom Brady doesn't want to share the spotlight. There's no way.
Well, he's not going to share the spotlight.
With Cam Newton, that's for sure.
He's not going to share the spotlight.
If Tom Brady,
the guy's going to be on the sideline until 100-year-old Tom Brady breaks his shoulder in half. New York, have him go behind Daniel Jones. See if it's really, you got your franchise quarterback there. Washington for the same exact reason.
I think Washington is the one that makes sense to me. If, well, first of all, I don't think Cam Newton would play for Washington. I think that Cam Newton would rather sit out than play for that organization.
I would rather sit out than play for that organization.
Yeah,
all right, how about this one? If you can get him for cheap, what about the Rams?
Sure. I mean, I think that doesn't match what their offense is. I think that Cam Newton's a tough fit for that offense. I think that that's a pretty different thing that you're doing if you're playing Cam Newton versus Jared Goff.
I just think McVay's got that ability where if he gets a guy with and regardless of where Cam Newton goes, nobody's going to be focused on his legs anymore, right? You might get him to run a little bit, and he might have a couple rushing touchdowns throughout the season, but that's not going to be the focal point of your offense. It can't be. He won't ever make it. But I just really think anywhere where you can have him push somebody who's riding that Andy Dalton line of average, who you can have him either push or beat out that guy for your spot. Because he's not going to cost a lot of money. The season is 2-3 months away.
I think there was something earlier that said that either him or another quarterback who's not signed were asking for, I think maybe Jameis Winston. They were asking for more money than they should have been. But I just think that Cam Newton's in like a really weird place to play right now. I think he's too good to be a backup, but I don't know how good of a every week starter he is. And I think that for the NFL especially, that's a tough sell. NFL teams are so risk averse. They're so I mean, honestly, the Patriots are the only team that makes sense for him anymore. Really. Yeah. The Chargers,
would you rather
they signed Tyrod Taylor.
Would you rather have Cam Newton on 1 year, $14 million, or Jameis Winston on 2 years, $20 million?
I'd rather, well, for football specifically, Cam Newton, 1 year, $14 million. I want to always. I want to in football. You don't want to be locked into stuff if it goes sideways.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I get what you mean by football specifically now. Yeah. Yes. All right. I was just having.
I'm going to say this, and I might cut it if I don't like it, but I think that there's a race thing with Cam Newton too that's going to keep him from getting signed.
Yes. Yes. Cam Newton is a flamboyant black man. He automatically in the NFL is stereotyped, profiled, whatever you want to call it, but held down. Any little mistake he makes is under a microscope.
What was your initial reaction to Cam's comments?
Extreme disappointment.
Because it is a league ran by billionaire over 70 white owners. Yep. That is not, I don't even think that's something that's up for debate. That's just what it is, and something that obviously needs to change. Vic Fangio the other day saying there's no racism in the NFL. Kiss my ass.
Well, how can you say that like the same offseason that they had to amend the Rooney Rule because it wasn't working?
Right.
Football is the only sport that has a rule like that, and there's a reason for it.
Head coach, GMs, presidents, and owners combined, there is 4 black people in the entire NFL, and they're all head coaches, which is the bottom of those 4 ranks. It is a real problem in the NFL, and I think everybody knows it, and I think the NFL actually starting this year has done a decent job at least seeing it and starting to address it. It needs to come a lot quicker and a lot harder, but they seem to have, at least in the public eye, shown that they recognize there is a problem there.
I don't believe anything the NFL does until I've seen them do it for a few years. I just don't, and I think that that's their fault.
Yes, 100%.
I have something kind of along that line. Do you think Roger Goodell kneels with players this year?
I hope not, and I hope every single player on that field kneels. If Roger Goodell does it, it will be the most phony photo op. It'll be Trump tear gas in the front of the church so you can go take a picture with the Bible. It'll be the same thing, but in the scope of the NFL. He doesn't mean it. He doesn't understand yet. And you saw him reading that robotic-ass script the other day.
It has been a difficult time for our country, in particular, black people in our country. First, my condolences to the families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and all the families who have endured police brutality. We, the National Football League, condemn racism and the systematic oppression of black people. We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League, believe Black Lives Matter. I personally protest with you and want to be part of the much needed change in this country. Without black players, there would be no National Football League. And the protests around the country are emblematic of the centuries of silence, inequality, and oppression of black players, coaches, fans, and staff. We are listening. I am listening.
He doesn't care, and we know that. And that's why for years people have been clamoring for a new commissioner. I don't want to see him go out there and pretend to care. I want to see changes in little. I know the idea they had for changing the Rooney Rule was a little bit wild, but I want to see more things like that, more things that enforce that, hey, we are not going to allow this to happen anymore. We're not going to allow the league to have 31 white head coaches or 28 like it has now when 75% of our players are black. That doesn't make sense. The math doesn't add up, and there's no way around it. If 75% of your players are black, then guess what? Those 75% of your players know football better than 99% of anybody else in the world. So the NFL has a ton of ground to make up in the racial injustice conversation before they have any trust.
I think what's the craziest, like the NFL is notoriously a copycat league, right? Everybody wants their own Sean McVay. I can't believe nobody's out there trying to get their own Brian Flores after this year.
Yeah.
Miami. He's still killing it. I think they're going to be really good this year.
Yeah, or just look at the players. I would rather have Cam Newton or Jameis Winston than Phillip Rivers.
I disagree with you about that, but I think that there's a better. How about Andy Dalton? I'd rather have either of those two players than Andy Dalton.
Yeah, fine, cool, agree.
I believe
And
in
I'd rather have Kaepernick than all five.
I think that he's going to be good for the Colts this year.
He's just so old, man.
What about
He's
who's backing up Drew Lock out in Denver? Maybe that's where you go.
Yeah, that seems like the perfect fit to me. Because Drew Lock is one of those big arm quarterbacks who's not perfectly accurate. He's got a lot of work to do there. He is pretty athletic. He's not Josh Allen or Cam Newton, but he's pretty athletic. And I actually think that would be perfect for him. Him or Jameis.
Yeah, I'm talking myself into this here. I think that with all of the young offensive players they have on that team, the receivers and Noah Fant, and I think that having a guy like him who's been around the league for a little while as a quarterback and a fucking good one would be probably good for them to have in that locker room conceptually. I've never understood like what sports media's deal is with Cam Newton, dude. Every time I watch that guy speak or do something, all I see is like a really good leader, a guy who's not afraid to be himself and do what's right. And I've never understood why anybody says anything other than that. I've never seen any indication that he's not like
the NFL is terrified of exactly what you just described when it comes in the form of a strong black person. They're terrified of it. They are terrified of it.
And this is why, like, I don't care what the NFL does this year. I want to know what the NFL is going to be doing 5 years from now, because this isn't a 1 year change thing. This is what I'm worried about. Like, generally, is that 6 months from now we're going to or really 2 years from now we're going to be looking back on this and things will be kind of more or less the same. I'm hoping it's not true, but that's the way it's functioned. And the NFL, I think, is just is like the cops of sports. You know, it's so ingrained into them that it feels like the only way to do it is to take it out by the root, so to speak. You know.
The cops of sports is one of the best things I've heard this week. That's a great way to describe that.
I have spent a pretty good chunk of this week pretty angry. So
yes, I know, man. I can't get past it. It's not something that I'm trying to like. I don't want to not be angry about everything I'm saying. I want to be angry about it because I feel when I do stop thinking about it, when I get it off my mind, I feel like I'm just leaving something that needs to change and needs to change quickly. But man, this last week and a half, I have had a small amount of time where I haven't been just furious, man, just absolutely furious. And it's been tough. But while we're speaking about that, real quick, I want to say everybody go find a petition, go find a charity, donate. Black Lives Matter. It's important.
There's a million good links out there. Actually, Planet Ant has a huge thing set up specifically with the Detroit Justice Center, so that's a place you can go.
Yes.
It's always been very involved in that stuff. So 3 years of probation. They lose 3 scholarships between now and 2022, 2023. And they pay a $10,000 fine plus 1% of the men's basketball program's budget. A level 1 unethical conduct charge against former Cowboys associate head coach Lamont Evans, who was one of 10 men charged in September 2017 in the federal government's investigation that led to Evans ultimately serving 3 months in prison in the summer of 2019.
Okay.
So that's like a whole thing there.
Well, I mean, it's the NCAA doing what the NCAA does, right? They found the smaller school that committed a violation, just shockingly 1 month after the Zion story broke that he possibly took money to go there, so they could take all eyes off of Duke or off of Kentucky or off of whoever the hell it may be in whatever year and put it on Oklahoma State. Because guess what nobody gives a shit about? Oklahoma State. Nobody. Now, they're going to screw themselves a little bit this time as opposed to the other times because now the number 1 recruit in the nation, Cade Cunningham, is going to go to the G League and he's going to give him a middle finger and he's going to say, Mark Emmert, I don't care about you. I don't need this year of partying because I'm going to go make a ton of money, get my college paid for, party my ass off anyways, and then the next year I'm going to make the same amount of money that I would have. So it's them trying to take the target off of the big school's back and shooting themselves in the foot on accident as they do it. The downfall of Mark Emmert is going to be swift and it's going to be fast. And I wouldn't be shocked if this is like the very first domino. It's going to fall slowly, but as soon as it hits that next domino, Mark Emmert's gone, man. He's done.
Mark Emmert is the commissioner of the NCAA.
Yeah, president. Yeah.
To me, that dude almost is like Roger Goodell, where I feel like because he makes everybody so much money, he's like kind of impervious to real justice. I just think that this is the reality of the NCAA now, is that once every couple of months, they're going to be like, they're just going to give a small school thing. And it's like, it's like an open secret, right? That Duke is paying players. Like, it feels like everybody but the NCAA at this point is aware that Duke is doing something, probably not the way that they should. And
NCAA is the ultimate eyes wide shut organization. They know it's happening. They just don't care, because if Duke goes down, they probably lose tens of millions of dollars in whatever years follow where they can't compete at the highest levels. If Coach K goes down, you lose 30 years of legacy for an entire school. If Coach K gets caught and like suspended and fired, whatever it may be, one of the greatest legacies in college basketball history is all of a sudden just wiped. It's gone. Too bad, dude. You shouldn't have been paying guys this whole time. And he has been the whole time. Go back to Christian Laettner. I'm almost positive that guy was getting paid like the whole time. But the problem isn't with Duke or with Coach K or with all the other big schools that are also more than likely paying their players. The problem is with the NCAA deciding when to enforce it and being completely random with it. But random really just means we're not taking out the seeds. They're the schools that are going to be 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament.
Kansas has 5 violations from the same report, and I don't think anything's going to happen to Kansas. Do you?
No, of course not.
I mean,
does it ever?
I mean, Kansas will they'll do the O.J. Simpson thing, and they'll just hire 7 lawyers, and they'll just contest every little tiny thing until the NCAA throws its hands up in the air and just quits. You know,
I mean, Arizona got caught paying DeAndre Ayton a couple years ago, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. And their coach got fired, I think, but nothing else happened. Like, it's just a shit show in the NCAA. You described it perfectly. Roger Goodell is to Mark Emmert. The NFL is equal to the NCAA. They are just piles of greed and mush and old white men mixed together to make this big ball of shit. Just absolute, just horribleness. It makes me, I don't know if you can tell, I get a little bit stressed out talking about it because I just despise the NCAA.
I think everybody's stressed out about how all that stuff is going down right now. You know, what are you gonna do?
Nothing. That's what.
Just kidding.
But I had 2 more football things I wanted to talk about.
Oh, sure.
1, how many Super Bowls does Patrick Mahomes win in his career? Let's say he comes back this year, wins another one. He's already at 2. He'll be 25 years old. Can that dude sneak up on Tom Brady? Is he going to have, if he stays healthy, can he, right?
Yeah.
Because they're going to be in this position for at least the next decade at minimum.
Probably.
He's better than
happens, right?
I mean, he's probably going to be better than Aaron Rodgers ever was, which is, on a talent scale, maybe the best quarterback of all time. He already knows how to win. He beats the best teams. He comes up in the biggest moments. He has no fear. He's got the biggest arm in the NFL. He's one of the most accurate passers in the NFL. He's athletic. He's got a sweet team around him. He's got an awesome coach. Tyreek Hill is young as hell. I mean, there is 0 negatives with Kansas City Chiefs football right now. I would not be shocked if they win 5 out of the next 10 Super Bowls. I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Yeah. I think that they just hit everything perfectly. They have all of the right pieces in place. They did the thing that you got to do, and that's to get value on a quarterback in the draft. That's what wins you titles. I mean, if Patrick Mahomes costs whatever he costs, I mean, they're gonna, as long as like nothing really weird, like a breaking story type thing happens, I think that they're gonna win 5 titles. I think he can totally catch up on Tom Brady. I think Patrick Mahomes is a more talented, pure athlete than Tom Brady ever has been in his life. I just think that there's like a certain amount of God-given talent that you just can't escape with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's the most purely talented quarterback, I think, of the generation, probably ever. I think by the time this is all done, he's 25, man. Quarterbacks don't win like this at 25.
No, never. Like, and now we're 2 years deep. And I know he didn't win the Super Bowl the first year, but he threw fucking 54 touchdowns. We're 2 years deep into him just being like, I'm here, and I'm here to stay, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Go ahead, blitz 6 guys at me. I'm going to figure out a way to get this ball out. Go ahead, throw 3 guys at me and just cover everybody for as long as you want. I'm going to put this ball in the tightest window you've ever seen in your life. He is like Matt Stafford times 2. Like, he is like everything Matt Stafford does, but doubled.
He's like capitalized Matt Stafford.
Out of all under, I don't know, we'll say under 27 guys in sports, the 2 careers I'm the most excited to see play out is Patrick Mahomes and Giannis. And I don't know who has the edge. I don't know who has the edge for me in that. Sure, I just don't think he's at that Giannis level. Giannis right now, when you watch Giannis, I'm pretty confident that's going to be a top 10 player to ever play basketball. He's going to win multiple championships. If he can stay healthy, there's nothing that can stop him.
I think
and same with Patrick Mahomes.
Too. Yeah. Is he going to be like Brett Favre, but better? Is that what we're looking at with Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah. He's going to be Brett Favre, but if you took away, like, Brett Favre was throwing 14 to 18 interceptions every year. I think that number will be closer, and it is a little bit the modern NFL that does this, but I think that number will be closer to like 5 to 9 interceptions every year. And he's more accurate. He can throw the ball just as far, if not farther. He can throw the ball just as hard, if not harder. But yeah, Brett Favre, Matt Stafford times 2, or Brett Favre times 1.4, whatever you prefer.
Stafford plus Brett Favre.
Yes, there we go. I love that. That's perfect.
And it's like I don't see anything concerning coming down the pike from like a person standpoint. It seems like a pretty solid.
Seems like he's got a great head on his shoulders, as my mother would say, and he gets it. He gets every part of it. He knows what he has to do when he has to do it, and the man just always executes. He never disappoints. But that's a good question. Who do you think 15 years from now, who is remembered more fondly in their sport, Patrick Mahomes or Giannis?
Well, I think Patrick Mahomes, like more fondly, like by fans.
Yeah, just like
Mahomes.
The higher ranked on the all-time list of that sports, I guess.
That if Giannis stays in Milwaukee his whole career, it's definitely Patrick Mahomes. If Giannis goes to New York and reinvigorates the Knicks, then it's Giannis.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
The only way that Giannis is greater, in my opinion, all time than Patrick Mahomes is if he goes to New York and pulls that off. Just because I think with football, it's so much harder to impact a game individually than it is with basketball. And Mahomes is great enough to do that at a level that I don't think a whole lot of guys do.
Right, at the most important position in sports.
In all sports, yeah.
And then the last thing I want to talk about football, since we are Fan2Fan Detroit, and I want to get your take on this. By the way, beautiful vocals in the intro and outro. And also a nice attempt at a wink. What is the number one thing, you can only pick one, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 0, just one, that the Detroit Lions need to change or improve upon this season to get into the playoffs? They
have to get to the quarterback occasionally.
Okay, yes. All right. I kind of want to see if you had a different answer than me, but it is that simple. You got to rush 4 to 5 guys sometimes. You have to sack the quarterback. If you can do that, the rest of the defense is going to be at least okay. At least. Probably better than that. The secondary will probably be very good.
I don't even think you need to get to them that much. You just got to get to them more than 0, you know?
Yes. And stop the prevent defense in the fourth quarter. I get it. It's a great idea. It worked 15 years ago. It did. It doesn't work anymore. It's literally just like, I don't know, you want to see if we can let them get down the field in less than 2 minutes? Like, that's the whole thing with the prevent defense. You're rushing 3 guys. When there's a guy like Patrick Mahomes on the other side of the line of scrimmage, and he just gets to stand and look and stand and look, and then he's like, oh, There's Tyreek Hill, 89 yards down the field, and hit him. It's just never going to work. It won't stop Matt Stafford. It won't stop Aaron Rodgers. Shit, it'll barely stop Mitch Trubisky. So I'm sick of it. I don't want to see it. Stay in the cover man. Stay in cover man when the fourth quarter comes. It's what you run. It's how you get stops. Just because somebody might break a big play on you doesn't make it worse than a defense where it's impossible to stop somebody.
Prevent defense is like communism. It's a better theory than practice.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Hashtag prevent defense is like communism. Make a trend. I love that.
That'd be a wild one.
What else? What else do you want to talk about?
Did you see Connor McDavid? Did you see that Connor? I almost said Connor McDavid, who's I think a hockey player.
Hockey player.
See Conor McGregor. Yeah, you know, if we go to hockey twice, then this is
off the rails.
Yeah. Conor McGregor tweeted that he's retiring from fighting.
Yeah, until somebody offers him $60 million.
Well,
Just like every other fighter who's ever retired in the history of fighting. You don't retire. You just, after a certain amount of time, somebody's like, I don't know. I don't think he's worth $100 million. So you never come back. But the second Floyd's like, hey, man, we go do another boxing match, you're going to get $150 million. He'll be right back in the ring. The second, I don't know, Khabib comes in, he's like, Conor McGregor sucks. Let's go make $100 million. He's going to be like, all right, matey, or whatever they sound like in Ireland. And he's going to go fight again. It's just that simple. Retirement in fighting is just another way to make more money, because then people are like, darn, we'll never see Conor McGregor again. And then the stupid people who think we'll never see Conor McGregor again are like, oh my God, we're going to see Conor McGregor again. So he's not retired. He just says he's retired.
All right. I'm going to put some string up on the wall behind me, and I'm going to go through this tweet real quick.
Okay.
I'm going to read it. Hey, guys, I decided to retire from fighting. Thank you for all the amazing memories. What a ride it's been. Here's a picture of myself and my mother in Las Vegas post one of my world title wins. Pick the home of your dreams, Mags. I love you. Whatever you desire, it's yours. And then the photo is has like a bunch of branding stuff on it that I don't want to say because what I think this is so obvious. It's marketing. It's a publicity stunt. And by talking about it, we've fallen for it. And that's yes. And that is why I will not say what it is he's advertising. But did you know, to add a layer to this, that Las Vegas opened up this week? I wonder who's doing this now on a lot of money. Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Who will really benefit from something like that, and who also might have a relationship with a fighter? Las Vegas. So I think that in 2 months, when Dana White goes, Dana White will like say something stupid on a radio interview and admit that it was a whole thing, or maybe Conor McGregor will. I mean, he might just go, yeah, I did it for the money, right? Isn't that kind of a Conor McGregor thing to do?
For sure, yeah.
What does it cost for him to tweet like, I've decided to retire from fighting? Which is the only reason you do that like that way is if it's because like you're being blackmailed, where you're just very casually with a period, I've decided to retire from fighting, or there's a medical aspect to it that we don't know about.
Right. And let's not forget, on May 15th, Conor McGregor was talking about fighting and beating Floyd Mayweather, which is less than a month ago. He's not retired, but as you said, he hook, line, and sinkered us. We've now spent 6 minutes on it, and he got what he wanted, and I dig it. That's what I love about fighting, is that you have to be as good at promoting yourself as you are at fighting to become one of the best fighters in the world. Because if people don't care, they just won't throw you in the fights. They just won't put you in them.
Congratulations to Conor McGregor. Fuck you.
What is that? Is that like the first reply underneath?
No, that's just how I feel about that whole tweet.
Okay.
Congratulations.
He also talked about Floyd Mayweather in January of this year. I mean, yeah, it's
about fighting Anderson Silva not too long ago, and I think he also talked about fighting the current bantamweight champion in an MMA match. I might have the weight class wrong, but he was talking about fighting somebody who's currently a champion in the MMA.
Right. So we'll see him again. Don't worry, everybody. Don't worry, you big Conor McGregor fans who are at home drinking proper 12 right now. You will see him again.
Conor McGregor fans are too drunk to figure out how to get this video podcast on.
Have you had his whiskey?
No, I've never had it. What's it called? Pure 12?
Proper 12, I believe. I might go buy some after the show and see if it tastes any good.
There's no don't do that.
I heard it's just like a shitty Jameson.
Probably. And if you want
Yes.
if you want a Jameson that's not Jameson, I can find you something better than that for my
for a lower cost.
I don't yeah, never mind.
Did you see Cristiano Ronaldo became soccer's first billionaire?
No, I didn't see that. That's cool.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's going to disappear when Spain gets its cut. He's been sued for tax evasion like a couple of times.
Yeah, and him and Messi both had that weird 6-month prison sentence, but in Spain, if it's under 2 years, you don't serve your prison sentence.
Yeah, it's like kind of a weird loophole that Spain does that to a lot of high-end soccer players and athletes. They kind of have a history of doing that. But yeah, Leo Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo are the two highest profile cases of that. But yeah, Spain's got an interesting law where if anything less than a year or 2 years, you don't have to serve prison time. But you do have to make financial restitution, I think. So they kind of do that. They kind of get their money one way or another.